All right, welcome back, guys, to the fantasy breakdown. Today, we're hitting you with 7 players from the waiver wire for week 7 that I think you should be picking up. And let's go ahead and get right into it. First player I have is Jackson Dart. You should expect ups and downs with the rookie quarterback, but I think he's a ride worth taking. He's posted 19 plus fantasy points in 2 of his last 3 starts. Now, he does have a tough matchup against the Broncos and their suffocating defense, but if he comes out and has another game like he did against the Eagles, I don't think the defense is going to be that much of a problem for him. So far on the season, he is averaging 11.8 fantasy points a game, 59 fantasy points, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Our next player that we have on the list is Sam Darnold. Now, with Darnold, I don't love his matchup this week against the Texans and their defense this week. They do have one of the top defenses in the league so far this season. So far, Darnold has scored 20 plus fantasy points in consecutive weeks against respectable defenses. And that could translate well here this week as well. But with the Texans just coming off that bye, it's very hard to tell. So far this season, Darnold's posted 15 plus fantasy points in all but 1 game this season, which, I mean, I think his floor is a lot lower than we were expecting at the start of the season with him coming into this new offense, but so far it looks to be working out really well for him. So far, he has 16.9 fantasy points a game, 101.6 fantasy points, 11 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. The next player that we have is going to be Bryce Young. I think that things are going to be very boom or bust for him this week, and I'm hoping he stays on the right track that he's had the last couple of weeks against the Jets this week. And if he does, then I think he does have a really high quarterback 2 potential for the week. He has 13.7 fantasy points a game, 81.9 fantasy points, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And we could see those the fantasy points average and fantasy points jump up this week against a very weak Jets defense. So he is someone else I am definitely looking at if you need a quarterback. Next up, we have Monty Vidal. I could have mentioned him last week, but I chose not to just because we didn't know what the Chargers running back situation was going to be. But it looks like he looks to be the running back 1 for the Chargers with Hampton on IR. And now there is also a very slim possibility that he could slide back down the depth chart, with the Chargers possibly looking at trading for a running back, but I don't think so. They do. I don't think they do if he keeps producing well. And he averaged nearly 7 yards to carry against the Dolphins, but he faces a tough matchup against the Colts. I don't know why I put Chargers there. That is supposed to be the Colts. He plays for the Chargers. That is a typo on my part, and I do apologize. So far in the season, Vidal has 8.6 fantasy points a game with 25.7 fantasy points and no touchdowns. But I think we could see those numbers start to improve if he stays the lead running back in for the Chargers. Next up on the list, we have Bam Knight. He was running back 1 for the Cardinals last week, but it looks like that the Cardinals might decide to split the workload between Knight and Carter, and if that does happen, I could see very limited fantasy upside if the workload is split. But with him scoring a touchdown the last 2 games, I think he is definitely someone to keep on your radar. With James Conner and Trey Benson both on IR, So far in the season, Bam Knight only has 5.5 fantasy points a game, 28.1 fantasy points, and 2 touchdowns. Next on our list, we have Kendrick Bourne. He is someone that I went over last week, and if he's still on waivers, I would look at picking him up, but I'm a bit hesitant on it. If Purdy, Pearsall, and Kittle all return this week, if Pearsall is still out, I think it is going to be hard to pass up on Kendrick Bourne. And with Mac Jones and him being the only receiving option, he's looked really good these last couple of weeks with 12 fantasy points a game and 60.1 fantasy points and no touchdowns. But I think we could see that come back and change. He might get a touchdown or 2 here this week. Next up, we have Harold Fannin Jr. With David Njoku being out with a knee injury, Fannin could take over. Or what? Not take over, sorry. Fannin took over for 7 catches and 81 yards. And if Njoku misses time, which I think he will, Fannin does become a fantasy tight end 1. So far, Fannin posted 11 fantasy points in back-to-back games while facing a back-to-back games, and we could see similar production this week, if not better, when facing a very weak Dolphins defense. So far on the season, Fannin has 10 fantasy points a game, 59.8 fantasy points, and 1 touchdown. Next up, we have nobody. I thought I had somebody else, but I don't. This was a very, very short one. I just wanted to get something out for you guys this week, and I hope if you are able to get these guys off of your waivers, and if you do, they end up starting the tide for you this week. And this has been the Fantasy Breakdown, and you guys have a great week. Bye.